What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so now that the smoke has cleared a little bit on Doge, right? Why does Doge get vilified so much, right? Like, we're going after the funding of the Democratic apparatus. That's why. Go ahead and end the video. Spoiler alert. That's what Doge is doing, because that's what we're finding. As a matter of fact, we're finding all kinds of nonsense, and these people, they are just obstructing Doge at every single turn, but most of that has gotten overturned. This is why, Doge has went kind of quiet, if you will. You don't hear much from them anymore. Most of their court cases have been overturned. The appellate judges said, no, they're fine, blah, blah, blah. That's why all the firings have gone through. The access to the Treasury in places have gone through. Most of that has gone through. So now you're not hearing much about that in the news. The news cycle has shifted back to Donald Trump and back to immigration, where they think they have some sort of argument. And what the hell has Doge been doing then? Oh, they haven't stopped, folks. Their work has continued, but the Democrats, they have been quiet about that. So that is very concerning to me. I wonder why they're being quiet about that. That's fascinating.
It turned out that we borrowed $51 billion less than we thought last month. You know how consequentially important that is? Thanks to Doge. But except, what do we see? We see Doge get vilified. We see Elon Musk get vilified in the same breath by the same people that then all of a sudden make this one person the center of attention. And this is where there needs to be some amount of common sense and prioritization, because these issues are hard. I get it. There'll be some mistakes that are made, but this is where courage is defined. Have the ability to say what really matters, create a hierarchy, focus on those things and fix those things that make the lives of most Americans better, and then worry about the edge cases.
Yeah, you heard that right, folks. $51 billion less this month. Right? If this trend continues, you're talking hundreds of billions of dollars off of the deficit, folks. That is what the hell I'm talking about right there. Just from Doge. That is not to mention all the other cuts. Shutting down the Department of Education. Blah, 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 blah. All the other stuff Donald Trump is doing. Of course, there's some increases here and there, blah, blah, blah. And he's got his tax cuts he's wanting to re-implement. And there's another issue coming in where Donald Trump is floating the idea of raising taxes. But, getting back to Doge, Doge has been vilified like worse than Hitler type of thing. Like, speaking of that as an aside, like Hitler, that pejorative, yeah, let's just go ahead and call it that, or at least it used to be a pejorative, has no weight anymore because of the left, because of Democrats. It's insane, isn't it? But getting back to Doge, cutting USAID, that was gutting the funding apparatus of the Democratic Party right there, right? Like, we still haven't uncovered all the evidence. Why is that, you might think? Well, because a lot of that funding, when it went out the door through grants or whatever and went to these NGOs, there's no more congressional oversight, right? We would have to launch an investigation into all of these places to find out where that money went. And I don't know if they have the resources to actually do that. But, all these cuts, everything seems to be going good. We're on a track to actually balance the budget, y'all. And that is going to be very fascinating. I'm not sure if we're going to get there because, once again, and I always talk about this number, $1.8 trillion deficit spending. That's what we have to deal with. That is a major, major deficit hurdle to get over, if you will. $1.8 trillion. Right? That's pretty much the entirety of the federal government is funded in a deficit. So how do you fix for this? Well, for one, you gut the federal government. That's one way to help fix it. But spending has to be curbed, folks. This has to get back to Congress. Congress has to stop this money free-for-all that they've been on, this money spending binge for years now. It has to come to a stop. It really, really does. But Doge is doing the Lord's work, y'all. Check this out.
We found that they were spending money on things like private jets, and they even had a $130,000 contract with a former member of the Taliban.
What was the money going to the Taliban for?
So it was a contractor. They received $130,000 for generic services. And to Elon's point, there was not actually a clear description of what the contractor services were for. And you naturally have to ask the question, well, how did we get here? Like, when the country was founded, there were only 4 agencies. So there's been a 100x increase in the number of agencies since the founding of the nation. Thanks to President Trump, he's now signed 2 executive orders to start to reduce the number of agencies in the government, and the Institute of Peace was one of them, which is why our team went in to try and understand what was going on. And that's when we found all of the craziness, like the weapons in their armory. We found the payments to the Taliban. Just a few hours after we got into their headquarters, we found that their chief accountant had actually deleted over a terabyte of accounting records from several years. You'd have to ask the question, well, why would somebody do that? And the Doge team, fortunately, was able to recover that data. And I think the most troubling thing was they received $55 million a year from Congress, and any money that went unspent, instead of returning that to Congress, they would sweep it into a private bank account, which had no congressional oversight. And that's what they would use to fund things like events at their headquarters and the private jets. And so I think it's a great example because most Americans don't know what's going on at a lot of these smaller agencies. And this is, I think, the most extreme case of some of the wasteful spend that we're finding.
So this is a cover-up when you guys roll in.
This one, yes, a cover-up. Yes.
It's a cover-up.
No, they did delete a vast amount of financial information. That's really a definition of a cover-up.
Isn't that illegal to delete evidence?
It is. It's certainly illegal to delete accounting records that that Congress would certainly want to know where the congressionally appropriated funds are going from taxpayers.
When you catch them going Hillary style on their computers, do you refer this to the Department of Justice?
In this case, we did refer the evidence in the accounting example to the FBI and DOJ, and we were proud to do that. So, yes.
This is absolutely incredible, some of the stuff that they're finding. I mean, come on. Like, some of the arguments, by the way, like, you know, they were coming out talking about, oh, well, we have inspector generals to find waste, fraud, and abuse. We don't need Doge. That's what their job is, and Trump just fired all these people. Well, I wonder why Trump just fired all these people, because if we're finding stuff like this, you know, sending $130,000 to the Taliban for generic services, I wonder how many government contracts there were for generic services, huh? I wonder how many of those there were. And then that goes to private funds. They're deleting evidence of their crimes, and some of these same people have been fired or suing the government to try to get their jobs back. Well, I wonder why. It was making them millionaires, skimming a little bit off the top, folks. Like, this is what I don't understand about some of the arguments coming from Democrats and the left about all of these firings. Donald Trump is he's cutting the fat, trying to balance the budget, trying to downsize the federal government because there are evil people in this world. There are greedy people in this world that will take advantage of a government that does not keep proper accounting records, for goodness sakes. And when you have the ability to control those accounting records, you can skim just about whatever you want off the top. Who cares when we're spending money in a deficit at $1.8 trillion, right? These people actually care. They're not actually tied to the government, so they can come in and look for all this waste, fraud, and abuse. These are people that actually care about the country. Why would we want to keep somebody employed with the federal government when they're involved with money laundering schemes? Well, theft schemes, as a matter of fact. Theft, because that's what it is. And we're finding a lot of it, folks. And why is this not making, big, bold, beautiful headlines? I wonder why. Once again, all of this ties back to the apparatus, the Democratic funding apparatus in this country. They raised hell when all of those government contracts that were, sending money to the Associated Press, the New York Times, the Washington Post for all these, premium prescriptions to their services. Yeah, that was nonsense. That was the government subsidizing the corporate press. That's propaganda, if you will, because they were writing nothing but nice, big, beautiful articles about Joe Biden's government. Big, beautiful articles. Yeah, that's what they were writing. They hardly ever criticized Joe Biden's administration at all. And I wonder why, because maybe they were getting, a lot of money to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars a year from the federal government. It's money that you and I worked for that we never asked for the government to pay out. We never asked for that. We never asked for money to go to the Taliban for generic services. We never asked for, a transgender opera in Brazil. We never asked for DEI initiatives in Hungary, for goodness sakes. Like, we never asked for any of this. We don't want to spread our seed, our far left ideologically driven seed everywhere. Most Americans don't agree that that's a fiscally responsible way to spend your money. It's utter ridiculousness. But yet Doge gets vilified into oblivion. Elon Musk as well. Elon Musk has taken a massive hit to his wealth, to his popularity, not really, but his, approval rating, if you will. He's taken a massive, massive hit because of the corporate press writing hit piece after hit piece after hit piece on Elon Musk for trying to save this country, to trying to stop us from spending so much money in a deficit, to try to stop the rot, the waste, the nonsense spending that our government is constantly committing. They're just committing fraud on such a massive scale, and now that we're finding it, oh, hang on, they just deleted a bunch of records. Well, is that so? I wonder why they would delete records. I wonder why they would try to block access for the government to audit itself. This never lined up. It never made sense to me. Why you have outside groups, right? NGOs, whatever it may be, civil rights unions suing the government to stop Doge from auditing the government. That's fascinating, isn't it? Wonder why they would spend so much money, because these lawsuits aren't cheap, folks. Think about how many lawsuits we've covered just on this channel, and I've only scratched the surface at the lawsuits because I'm only one man and I can only cover so much. Think about that. These lawsuits take up tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why would the ACLU want to go into debt to sue the government to stop it from auditing itself? Maybe they were getting money funneled to them through generic services. That's fascinating, don't you think? But it's funny. It is really funny. They make that argument, oh, we had inspector generals. Well, you know what? I wish Donald Trump would fire every single inspector general, because obviously they weren't doing their job properly. They were not looking for waste, fraud, and abuse. Maybe they are part of the plan. Maybe so. Maybe they should be fired, because anybody that scrapes a little bit off the top, that's theft from the American taxpayer. Every single person in the United States should be livid, even if you don't believe some of it. Right? I understand. Look, Doge, everything, sure, they've made some mistakes. Sure, I'll grant them that. Sure, they projected $1 trillion cut. Have they made it there? No, they haven't. But they are doing a damn good job. They didn't have to borrow $51 billion this month. That's an amazing achievement. But yet we don't get any big, beautiful headlines, folks. And once again, the left, they're still trying to vilify Doge. Think about that for a second. Doge is coming in, once again, like I was saying, auditing the government, finding waste, fraud, and abuse that their own tax dollars paid for. And they are screaming, gnashing their teeth to try to stop it. I wonder why. It makes you wonder, why? Who would oppose this? Why do you oppose this? Once again, folks, it's like I've been saying, it's because Donald Trump is tied to this. And anytime Donald Trump's name is mentioned, these people immediately take a dump on the floor. That's what they do. And then roll around in it. It's insane. It truly is insane. But I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. Y'all don't forget to do me that big favor and smash that like button for me. I need y'all's help. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can, because we've got to fight the corporate press. We've got to fight the mainstream news, and we need to get shows like this spread out much further than what they are, and I need y'all's help to do that. I cannot spread, YouTube isn't going to recommend my videos to places where they need to be recommended to, right? They only recommend my videos mostly, for the most part, the vast majority of my recommendations go to people that don't agree with me politically. And I wonder why. Oh, that's by design. So what I need is I need you guys to help me recommend my videos to other places. I really do. I need y'all's help on that, y'all. I can't do it without you guys. And sharing this video doesn't take but a second. Sign up to become a member. That would be great. That would be another way that would show YouTube that my videos are popular. I have a good message, blah, 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 blah. It would help spread the word a whole hell of a lot. Tell your friends, tell your family, and subscribe if you're new around here. We really need to get the word out because I'm sick and tired of the lies, sick and tired of the misinformation, the propaganda from the mainstream news. And that's all it is, folks. They'll give you some facts sprinkled out here and there, blah, 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 blah. But then the rest of it's manipulated fluff. That's all it is. It's manipulated fluff. It's meant to drive your worldview in a certain direction. And we don't need that, do we? No, we don't. But y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.